like a wheel, Price is Right wheel.
Yeah, I think it is.
No, Bob either.
Here comes Chrissy.
Okay, let me see hello everybody. I do see you. So I didn't know if I was watching YouTube or what's going on. I better go over here and mute this. Hold on just a second.
You got the radio on? You hit the buttons for the radio?
No, I haven't hit the buttons for the radio. What makes you think I've hit the button for the radio? So hello everybody. You can tell this is live. This is not Memorex.
Not Memorex.
I just showed my age. It's good to have everybody with us tonight. And now, hello, everybody. It's so good to have you with us tonight. Those of you that have just now tuned in through Power Faith Radio, I'm sorry you was waiting on us 2 minutes, but here we are. We thank you so much for being here tonight. The Georgia group said they'd text us here in a minute, let us know how many's there, and we appreciate everybody listening to Power Faith Radio. If you are watching this tonight, recorded, please share this video with all your social media platforms. Where am I at, Terry? Oh, and you're watching this via Outreach Noah YouTube channel. While you're over there, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. You'll be notified every time a new video goes up, and it will be shared as soon as we get over on A Simple Walk. Terry shares that and fixes all that up, and come on over to A Simple Walk. That's our Facebook page, and you can join that page, and we challenge you to ask questions. You can send us an email. Send it to outreachnoah@gmail.com. Did I get all that in, Terry? For some reason, I just got off on the wrong foot tonight.
Well, still kind of close to Monday. You know how that goes.
It is close to Monday. It's 2 days from Monday and 3 days from Sunday. Whatever that means.
Well,
Terry?
Never mind. Oh, it's for
okay. Terry, I'm going to let you greet everybody in the Zoom room and tell everybody if they want to join the Zoom room tonight, all they got to do is go over to A Simple Walk. You go ahead and tell them that.
I think you just did.
Oh, but I didn't tell them how to do it. You go ahead.
All right. Greetings, everyone, and welcome again to Outreach Noah class. Let's see. Of course, we got Scotty down in the engine room. He's still down there poking buttons and checking out dilithium crystals and see if we can go to warp speed here in a few minutes without going dark.
Exactly.
Oh, and then Ronald and Thomas. I'm sure glad to have Thomas back after a year, 2 years being off.
He's gallivanting.
Out gallivanting around. There you go. And then Amuela and Wendell and Laura and Miss Chrissy is here tonight. And as Scotty said a while ago, any of you that want to join us in the Zoom room, all you have to do is go to A Simple Walk, our Facebook page, and Scotty has the links posted there where you can either go to the YouTube channel or you can come in here as well, or the radio station and listen to the radio station. So, and I want to greet everyone on the radio station as well, the Georgia group. And so if the Florida group comes in tonight, if they're here, we'll welcome. And Scotty, where else in the world is it lighting up for us tonight?
That's what I just looked. We got quite a few listeners in Hawaii tonight listening. Thank you for joining. Of course, we got some all around the world. We got some in, I think that's immigrants. I can't pronounce these.
I know that's one of the words Emirates.
I can't pronounce some of these, and of course
we're Tennessee hillbillies, so
yeah, we say yonder and clume
and y'all.
You know what clume is, don't you?
Clume.
I don't know. That buyer got at me, and I clume right up that tree.
Yeah. There you go.
That's what clume means. So okay, all right, Terry, you better go ahead.
Yeah, greetings to everyone around the world that's listening to us via the Power Faith Radio, and glad you could join us tonight. And feel free again, like Scotty says, come over and sign up for our YouTube page and share our videos if you enjoy them, and if you learn something, if you got any questions, you're always free to let Scotty know. He's got several contact places on the radio and YouTube where you can contact him. What was the email again? It's outreachnoah@gmail.com.
Correct.
If you're overseas, you can reach us through that as well. And tonight we're going to continue on with the subject that we've been talking about, that we were talking about in the contemplation of the prohibition of idolatry. And last week we talked or continued our discussion from where we've been going the last few weeks. And then tonight we're going to be moving over into where we're talking about, we've had some questions about what we call the anthropomorphisms that's used in the Torah, the metaphors that's used in the Torah. And tonight we're going to discuss those a little bit tonight, and probably a few other things that Scotty's got on his plate that I don't know about yet.
Okay.
All right, Scotty, you about ready?
We are ready. Again, we thank everybody who has participated in our Tzedakah time. You don't have to really send any funds. We've discussed that, and we have had a couple people this week that sent us some names. So I got a frog in my throat or something. So hold on, I'm going to try to.
Is it a tree frog or a bullfrog?
It was a tree frog, and it just jumped out.
Okay.
Okay. But anyway, here we go. And we've got some, I want to say panel. We got some questions for some people that are on in the Zoom room tonight as we get to a few names. But we always start out with giving tzedakah for Terry and I's main teacher and his wife. That's Pesach and Shira Sherbo. And then also, I just felt like keeping Rabbi Moshe Schulman on our list tonight. He's recovering from a procedure. And also Wendy Shepard. We still have her on our tzedakah list. Have you heard any word from? Okay, so we've still got her on our tzedakah list. Also, Clifford Hoole is on our tzedakah list tonight, and Tina Lyons is on our tzedakah list. She's going in Monday for total knee replacement, so let's remember her. And then Nadine Akins. Nadine Akins is on our tzedakah list tonight. And also we've got Ty Thompson. Chrissy, what's the update on your grandson?
He's still in intensive care unit. He's having another total scan today, and that'll tell us if there's any changes. But to his father and that he's still down there with him in hospital, and so it's going to all intents and purposes, the journey back is going to be slow and tedious, but we'll just take it one step at a time.
Okay, we're going to continue having him on our tzedakah list, Chrissy. Also, Kathleen Suits. Terry, have you heard anything new about Kathleen? Is she doing okay?
She just had, Friday, he messaged me and they were headed down to, they've got some, what does they call that? Timeshare. They have a timeshare they've had for years down in Kissimmee, Florida, and they were headed down there for a few days to get away. He said that she just had her second shot in her eye to dissolve the blood clot. Mm-hmm. The MRI come back and it showed that she had 2 strokes. And so they're dealing with that. It's slow. It wasn't like a major effect, but it's one of these things. It's like slowly coming on.
Yeah.
It's different things in her, how it's changing her walks and her, her speech and stuff.
Well, we're going to continue to have her on our tzedakah list. And also, Warwick Marshall is on our tzedakah list tonight. We're going to continue to have him on. And Ronald Dickman is on our tzedakah list. We've had him on it for a while. So, Ronald, how are you doing? Or do I need to ask someone else?
I'm not doing too bad, but I'm having issues around the operation area, and
okay.
I've got another referral back to the hospital. They'll probably do a scan to see that everything's still in place.
Okay. Are you still eating good? Are you eating better?
I am eating better. Yeah, there's no issues with that side of it. It's just that I had a fall and I may have upset something in the meshing that I put in, and we need to investigate that to see what's causing the pain in that area.
Okay. Well, we're going to continue to have you on our tzedakah list. Also, Amuela, somebody always sends, this is your dollar they sent in to go into the tzedakah box from you to the charity that we will end up giving that to. And then also Veronica Port. Veronica's traveling, so we're not sure where she's at tonight, but she's traveling, and they send one in for her too. And they also send one in for Thomas Schaus. There's Thomas with the heart on. So the heart, he just he finds all those buttons, the hearts and all those things to put up, and I don't find them. I just go like that. So all right. And then also Connie House Miglish is on our Tzedakah list tonight. Getting that in there. And then also we always love to give Thanksgiving tzedakah for Wendell and Mary Parsons. I'm not going to say anything about snow or shovel tonight, Wendell. So you can. I'm not going to say anything about that tonight.
I think he just fibbed.
So, and then also this week, Rabbi Skobach put his mother on. It's kind of the anniversary this week of her passing. And so I would not mess up the name. I have asked Ronald if he would help with this name. Ronald, can you help us with his name?
Yeah, Rabbi's mother's name, Shainal Bas Mordecai Yehuda Halevi and Hannah.
Thank you so much, Ronald. We're giving blessed memory tzedakah. May it be to her merit. Well, hold on just a minute. My computer is not acting right suddenly. I want to pray. I don't bring it up. We'll just pray. Hear our voice, Adonai, our God, Father of mercy. Have compassion on us and accept our prayers with compassion and favor. For you are a God who hears prayers and supplications. You are our King. Do not send us away empty-handed. Favor us and answer us and listen to our prayers. Amen. All right. All right. Terry, would you like me to get this question underway here tonight?
We can.
Okay. Did you have anything you need to add to the tzedakah? Anybody need anything added to the tzedakah list tonight?
No, I think you got it covered.
Okay. Thank you, Ronald, for giving that name for me tonight. I'm probably going to be calling upon you to help me in this endeavor. So thank you so much. So, the past couple of weeks, and not just the past couple of weeks, but it comes up often in teaching, especially in the walk that we are in now. Metaphoric descriptions of the Creator and his actions. And then also in return with that, in parallel with that, is thoughts of well, the name just went out of my mind, Terry. Anthropomorphism of the Creator, giving, and what anthropomorphism is giving a spiritual being a bodily form and giving him functions and everything like you would do. Even just me saying him, it's so a lot of times those things come up. And as Bob said, I think it was last week, it might have been after our class was over, we were talking just for a few minutes in the Zoom room, and it is hard to grasp. It's a hard thing to understand those terminologies, anthropomorphism and just giving God bodily functions and the metaphoric descriptions of the Creator and his actions. So we've had several questions come in on this, so we just thought we would discuss this tonight. So Terry, having said that, I'm going to throw it in your lap.
Oh boy, here we go.
Here we go.
Can you hear me okay? Like I said,
We can.
Have my mic on. Y'all know, remember last week it decided to take a trip to the floor and lay down on me last week. But I got me a new stand this week. It's a lot more sturdier and it doesn't clamp to anything. It's a good system for the kind of mics that Scotty and I use. And so hopefully tonight it will, it might go like around like a whirly bird, like a helicopter. If I hit it wrong and it goes, because I don't have it tightened down, so it's movable for me, but it won't fall like it did last week. Anyhow, I'm going to go back over again in the Mishneh Torah in Sefer Hamada, which is the book of foundations. This is a chapter actually called Hilakot Yesodi HaTorah, the foundations of the Torah, chapter 1, paragraph 9.
Okay, Terry, before you read,
go ahead.
If I don't ask you this question now, I think some people, because I already got 2 of them popped up.
All righty.
What is the Mishneh Torah?
Okay, the Mishneh Torah is the codification of the Torah by the Rambam. He lived in like the 1500s. He was he's a great Torah sage. He was also a physician to the Pharaoh in Egypt after he was exiled out of Spain during the times of the Inquisitions. And within Israel, they have there's just a slogan that goes from Moshe to Moshe, there was never another Moshe. It's just, you'd have to understand their side of the fence to know what that means. The Rambam is an acronym for his name. It's Rabbi Moshe Maimonides, or Ben Modin. I can't ever say the other word, but it's Maimonides is what most people knows him by. And he was a Torah sage, and he has several books or works that he had put together that have become classic Jewish literature in teaching the Torah. And the Mishneh Torah is a codification of everything within the Torah, all of its laws and its explanations and everything like that. And it was put together, and I don't have it all here. I have like three of the books that's been translated into English. There are the books that we have is the parts where he explains what our role is as non-Jews in our relationship with the Torah, because it was given to Israel. It's their heritage. It's their property, not ours. We're guests. But he has sections in there that is applicable for the non-Jewish peoples and our role with the Torah that God gave Moses at Mount Sinai. And like this section we're going through here is one of these sections that we're permitted to study, because it doesn't involve getting into the parts that the Jews have to do, their responsibilities with God. And so we're not, and the word permission and permissive are kind of hard words for some people, but it's just like, I'm not a brain surgeon, so I don't go studying brain surgery. It's not my job in the world. And so I don't go study that. Well, the Torah is given to Israel because they're a priestly nation, and there's parts of it that pertain to them. Well, actually, all of it pertains to them, but there's sections that is beneficial for us and also applicable to us as the nations. And Rabbi Moshe Maimonides, he's one of them that actually codified a lot of what's for us, and we study those parts, so we know how we're supposed to live as the non-Jewish part of God's creation, which is nothing wrong with that. It's just that's who He made us. He made them. He made us, just like He made cats, dogs, cedars, and oaks. He has a purpose for everything He created, and so we study this to learn our purpose and what we do, and also to understand, like what we've been going through is we're going through their understanding and their knowledge of the Creator that He gave them, that they are to teach us. And we've been going through that. And so this tonight, we're going to be looking at these metaphors. And so in this paragraph, which I've read a couple of weeks ago, He says, what is the meaning of the expression employed by the Torah? And he gives some examples. Below his feet in Exodus, written by by the finger of God in Exodus, God's hands in Exodus, God's eyes in Genesis, and God's ears in Numbers. Those are some examples that he gives. And he says all of these, and he's not the only Torah sage that has written this. Many of the Torah sages that goes back thousands of years has made this statement that he codified here from what they had said in with this explanation. He says all of these expressions were used to relate human thought process, which knows only corporal imagery. That's all we know. For the Torah speaks in the language of man. And that is the statement that the sages have taught for years. Even to Israel, thousands of years ago, even some of the ordinary ones that didn't, because back then they didn't have the books we have today. The Torah was in scrolls, and they were, in the temple, or they were in the synagogues, and that's where you went and you learned, but you didn't have one in your home to study. And so when they would hear this, these words of Torah that refers to God in a corporal sense, they had to be taught that these are just metaphors, and that's what the Rambam is covering here. And it says, for the Torah, 5 books of Moses, the Torah speaks in the language of man. They are only descriptive terms. Now, I'm going to go through a few of these tonight. I'm not going to go through all of those. I've picked a few to go through. He's got another work that's very, very extensive. It's written just basically to the Jewish people, but this is a section that was recommended in this writing in the footnotes that explains some of these in further detail that he just mentioned, talking about the Torah is in the language of man. And so I'm going to read the majority of this one chapter, chapter 26, that speaks about the subject of, and it starts out, the Torah speaks in the language of man. That is to say, expressions which can easily be comprehended and understood by everyone are applied to the Creator. When the Creator is speaking to us through the Torah, he speaks in the language that everyone, not just the learned and the scholar, but even the shoemaker, if I could use those as metaphors. Hence, the description of God by attributes implying corporality in order to express his existence. These are just here to express his existence. He's because the multitude of the people, he's talking about the multitude of the people, and that's all of mankind, Jew or Gentile, do not easily conceive existence unless in connection with the body. Now, Scotty, I'm going to try to go slow here. So if I go a little too fast, you pull me back, because some of these statements he says are very, very important. The multitude of the people do not easily conceive existence unless in connection with a body. Now, the rest of this sentence, I may go through it a couple of times because it's, and that which is not a body, nor connected with a body, has for them no existence. Now I'm going to read the whole sentence together. Because the multitude of the people do not easily conceive existence unless it's connected to a body. And that which is not connected to a body See, and that which is not a body, nor connected with a body, has for them no existence. This is kind of a, as Agatha Christie, Detective Poirot would say, it kind of boggles the gray matter up here. I call it noodle. I call it the noodle. Because when I first time I watched the Matrix, I was like, "That's a noodle movie." When the movies like the Matrix, I call them noodle movies. They get you to thinking. I like movies like that. So here's the problem. We that have an existence, we that have a corporal existence, cannot conceive an existence that appears to be non-existent. Did I say that okay, Scotty? You're muted.
I do that all the time. Say that one more time.
Oh, you would ask me to do that.
I know it.
Because I've been meditating on that this week. We that have a corporal existence struggle with and really cannot grasp an existence that appears non-existence to us. Because to us, existence has some kind of form. But yet, Hashem tells us, and told them at Mount Sinai, "You've seen no form. You only heard the voice coming out of the fire." And so he speaks to us in a corporal sense when there is actually no corporality.
Terry, can I
Go ahead.
Can you? Okay. So, it in man's mind, we have to give understandable functionality to who and what we serve.
Right.
In order for us to better understand. But even when we do that, are we limiting the Creator when we do that?
He's already speaking to us in a language, like I said, the language of man. He speaks to us in that. But as we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, if the Creator had any kind of corporality, he would be limited, because a body, a physical thing in the physical realm, cannot exist in two places at one time. And part of that is from the passage we covered last night. He is the God of heaven. He is the God of the heaven and earth, and below. He if he was, put it this way, King David said, we mentioned this last week in Psalms 139, whether I go up to the highest of the heavens or into the pit of the grave, no matter where I go, up high or low, behold, you are there. Okay. And like I explained last week, using my Star Trek knowledge, which I always use, because one reason why I like Star Trek is it has a lot of science in it. Like you said, to go from the Milky Way galaxy, from the edge of it to the next galaxy, in the fastest ship of the fleet at the time, next generation, at warp 9, which is 9 times speed of light. The speed of light is like, I've got it's in my book over there, 180, I think it's 180,000 miles per second, something like that. That's a round figure. And so at 9 times that, you're looking at several million miles per second. I mean, going, before you can go between 1 and 2, you've already traveled several million miles. Warp 9, which that's not, warp is the speed of light, like Mach is the speed of sound. And in real science, at warp 9, at like 1 point something million miles per second, it would take 1,000 Earth years to get to the next galaxy. And when you get there, guess who you're going to run into? You're going to run into Hashem is there. God is there. And there's not a physical form that can contain the entity of the creator, because no matter where you want to go in this galaxy, if we just, we talk about it here on Earth, but technically we get into the space age out there and Star Wars, Star Trek, and whatever sci-fi you like, it goes to the stars. No matter where you go, the creator's there. You're not going to outrun him. And there is no physical, there's no physical thing in creation that can contain the creator, because he is life. He is a source, and he is existence without a form. And for us, we can go bonkers thinking about it. So the Almighty, our creator, who blew into our nostrils, knows this. So he speaks to us in our language, not in the language that he would have at that realm. Because that's like, when he told Moses, man can't look at my face and live, because there's just absolutely no way in the human body, in human form, can we comprehend the creator at all. We would puff like a vapor. And that's kind of what he was telling Moses with that. And so he's on our behalf, because we are his children. He speaks to us in a language that we can understand. It's not literal, it's metaphorical. It says, whatever we regard as a state of perfection is likewise attributed to God as expressing that he is perfect in every respect, and that no imperfection or deficiency whatsoever is found in him. But there is not attributed to God anything which the multitude considers a defect or want. Thus, he is never represented as eating, drinking, or sleeping, being ill. You'll never hear him referring to that he's eating, drinking, sleeping, or being ill, because those are deficiencies that the human body goes through. Whatever, on the other hand, is commonly regarded as a state of perfection is attributed to him, although it is only a state of perfection in relation to us. For in relation to God, what we consider to be a state of perfection is in truth the highest degree of imperfection. Because we're still talking about our language. If, however, men were to think that those human perfections were absent in God, they would consider him imperfect. So he goes on down here. He says, talking about eating and drinking would be an imperfection. Eating and drinking would be an imperfection in God. While motion, because we hear that, we read things where he says about in movement, and the Rambam uses the term locomotion, says you are aware that locomotion is one of the distinguishing characteristics of a living being. Movement is what he's talking about. Movement is a distinguished thing. So it says, while motion would not, in spite of the fact that is the necessity of locomotion, is the result of some want. Furthermore, it has been clearly proven that everything which moves is corporal and divisible. So everything which moves. But see, we have passages that appears that God's moving. We've even used the words, the move of God. But yet movement is a corporal thing. Not a divine aspect. Rambam, he goes on and says, it is shown below, where he's talking on through the book, that God is incorporeal and that he can have no locomotion, nor rest can be ascribed to him, for rest can only be applied to that which moves. See, this is some deep stuff. Takes time to think about it. I mean, we could probably stop right here and go to bed with a headache. Oh, so that's kind of the Rambam little chapter. I skipped kind of through it, but the parts that help us understand that the Creator is speaking in the Torah, is speaking in the language of man. So I'm just going to go through a few of these. I think just maybe two of them here. 28, where he's talking about feet. He gets into the Hebrew a little bit here. I'll just go through this, where he's talking about the feet of God. It says the term regel, which is Hebrew for foot, is harmonious, signifying in the first place that a foot of a living being. Compared foot for foot in Exodus chapter 21. Next, it denotes an object which follows another, and the people that follow you, that are at your feet. Also in Exodus 11. Another signification of the word, what's called regal, or foot, is also cause, parentheses, cause, not parentheses, but quotations. And it says, and the Lord hath blessed you, being the cause. When he blesses, that is a cause. And that Hebrew word there is l'ragali. That's in Genesis chapter 30. It says, constantly the Hebrew text, of which the literal rendering is, and his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, Zechariah, is explained in the following way. And the things caused by him, the Hebrew word there for feet is raglav. And the things caused by him on that day upon the Mount of Olives, that is to say, the wonders which will then be seen, and of which God will be the cause and the maker. So when we read about the feet of God, there's a cause. It deals with a cause. Something is being done. He says those parts of the body by which contact and motion are affected by his might when referring to God, because such expressions denotes acts being done by his will. And there was under his feet like an action of the witness of the sapphire stone. So when we read about his feet, it's about a cause, it's about an action that this is referring to. This, we're leaving the corporal and actually going into what is, like I said, it speaks in the language of man. Sometimes, like I said, I'm debating whether to go over some of this stuff because it's some very deep. You kind of got to go over it and look at it, and it gets into the Hebrew so we can understand what is actually being said, because English translation, just like Spock's sister told her when she was trying to explain, fully human. I know Vulcan. Well, Mr. Vulcan looked at her and said, listen, translation is not the essence of understanding. That's one of the wisest things I think I ever learned from Star Trek. Translation is not the essence of understanding. And just because we pick up our English Bibles and we read Genesis chapter 1, we think we know what it says. We get an idea. And that's about as far as it can go. It gets an idea. But when you get into the Hebrew, it explodes. And we'll learn some of that when we'll study some parts of Genesis in the future. And I'll share some of you with the Hebrew when we get into the Hebrew. And you'll begin really quickly to see that the basic understanding is there in the English, and that's fine. But what is really being said in some places is hidden because of the translation. The Rambam says the incorporality of God is a demonstrative truth and an indispensable element of faith, the comprehension of which is not very easy for most people. Under his feet, Raglav denotes under that which he causes, that which exists through him. He says, consider well the phrase, like the action of the witness of the sapphire stone. If the color was the point of comparison, the words as the witness of the sapphire stone would have sufficed. But the addition of like the action was necessary because matter as such is as well as were always aware, always representative and receptive and passive, actively only by some action. On the other hand, form as such is always active and only passive by some accident. And he gets into some physics. Like I said, he was a doctor and also he was a scientist of his own in that time period. I mean, the Rambam was a very, very well educated man. And so he tells us, he says, the whiteness of the sapphire refers to a transparency and not as the white color, but as the property as being transparent. And so he's talking about these in the relationship with feet, because feet represents as a cause. And like he says here, under that which he is the cause, that which exists through him. Scotty, I know that's kind of, under his feet literally means under that which he is the cause, that which exists through him. And so, I mean, under his feet is such a technical, all of these are very technical in matter when you start breaking down, getting beyond the corporal understanding. You got anything there, Scotty, before I go to the next one? It's the only reason why I've chosen just a couple of these to go through, because, there's chapter after chapter of chapter 29.
There is a couple things, but I want to wait till you go into this next chapter before we discuss
them. Let's see here. Chapter 29 is talking about in his heart. It's a short chapter, but it's got a lot of the Hebrew with it. I'm going to look right here real quick for time's sake. Right here in Genesis chapter 6, the word has either the second or the third significance. in the first case, the sense of the Hebrew Vayit Azev El Libo, and the Libo, it's got two baits in it, so it's the not the Ashkenaz, it's the Sephardic pronunciation of heart. Vayitz Azev El Libo is God was angry with them on the account of the wickedness of their deeds. As to the words to his heart used here, and also in the history of Noah in chapter 8, verse 21, I will here explain. They mean, with regard to man, we use the expression, he said unto himself. Now, for us, for man uses the expression, he said unto himself, or he said in his heart. That's, an expression of man. In reference to the subject, which it's in reference to a subject which he did not utter or communicate to any other person. So when we say something to ourselves or we speak to our own hearts, we're saying something to us, but not to someone else out loud. It's for us to us only, we're the only ones that is aware of what we just said. Similarly, the phrase, and God said in his heart, like we would say in our heart, we're saying it to ourselves, not to someone else. When the phrase, and God said in his heart, is used in reference to an act which God decreed without mentioning it to a prophet at the time of the event that took place according to the will of God. And a figure of this kind of a symbol, since the Torah speaks in the accordance of the language of man. It says it's plain and clear that in the Torah, no distinct mention is made or a message is sent to a wicked generation of the flood, cautioning or threatening them with death. He didn't send a prophet out into the world at that time. He didn't speak that to them. It says, and God was angry with them in his heart. Likewise, when he decreed that no flood should happen again, he did not tell the prophet he did not tell a prophet to communicate it to others, and for that reason, the words in his heart is added. And then he says, he's talking about taking the verb in the third significance. We explain that the passage, as man rebelled against God's will concerning him, for lev, heart, also signifies his will. So when it's used that he is, speaking to his heart, he is not speaking it to a prophet. He's keeping the matter to himself, but also in essence is where it talks about the heart of God is also referring to his will. I'm going to hold off and not go to very much more because it's so deep on just those two right there. Because there's more to read. He's got several chapters, the eyes, his mouth. There's just multiple chapters that are just, you really just need to take one at a time and just spend time with it. And so I only wanted to go through a couple tonight because that's just so in depth in its understanding. Go ahead, Scotty.
Well, one of the things that I think that people have such a hard time with in discussing things of this nature is that we, especially, I'm going to speak for myself. From the time that I could probably understand language, was conditioned for the Creator to have a form, a fashion, a body. Like he puts his arms around me, he holds me, all those things. And it is very difficult to free ourselves from that concept. But if we could free ourselves from that, how overwhelming the Creator would actually be in our minds if we could just free ourselves from that.
That's the that's the reason why the Rambam says that it's pretty much humanly impossible to not relate to God through corporality, because we are corporal and he is not. So therefore he speaks to us in our language on our side. It's where we go wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with, wanting to be in the arms of God. There's nothing wrong with that statement. Nothing wrong with it. What's wrong with it is when we give God or worship God through a corporal thing, a physical. Part of the the prohibition of idolatry is we are not to worship to, nor pray to, nor bow down to, nor offer up libations to anything of the creation that is considered created.
Yeah.
That's the reason why our prohibition of idolatry is forbidden actions, giving our worship, of God, like we read, a few weeks ago, to where, who do you attribute to God? Who do you symbolize God as?
Yeah.
It's when we start symbolizing God and giving him form and giving him corporality so that we can perform acts of worship, praise. That's when we start getting into idolatry. And that's why our prohibition of idolatry is our actions. They're actions, and we're replacing God with. When we're talking about wanting to be in the arms of God, you're not replacing him with something physical. You're just speaking in human tongue of desiring that relationship with the divine in a language that only you can understand. But if you start making, objects, and whether it be stone, wood, metal, flesh, if you put flesh on his body, then and you worship that flesh, then that's idolatry. But it's nothing wrong wanting to say, I just want to climb up in my dad's lap at those times when you're hurting, because he knows that's your language and that's all you know. It's when we start giving preeminence of that and making those things actually come into reality in our end instead of metaphoric.
So Bob on Power Faith Radio, thank you, Bob. You're a faithful listener. We thank you so much. Says, how does this statement fit into the conversation tonight? I feel him close to me. I do not feel him next to me at all.
Remember, he's not an object. He is not a being of movement. So who moved?
Yeah. That
it's he doesn't move because he is. See what I'm saying? It is doesn't move.
Correct.
We are not is. We are corporal individuals, and our actions are movement. And sometimes by our actions, he's still there. He hasn't moved. He hasn't changed. Just like what we read the other night. We read about the anger of God and let's say the joy of God. If that could actually really be true in those terms, then he can change, because being angry and being joyful, you have to change to be one or the other. But we use those terms when we know that we see his justice being done, whether it's justice for, things that we would think would be angry, but it's not, it's just justice. Or it would be justice that was done that brings joy. All justice isn't negative, but we're the ones who move, and he's still there, though you may not feel him. He's still there. So the question becomes, if the one doesn't move, and there feels like there's a separation to you, then the question is who moved. the one who can't move or the one who can. And it's not that God can't move. I don't want to put it that way. The one who movement in a physical corporal sense is not in him, because he's like I said, we can go a billion years into the future through a spaceship, no matter where, and he's going to be the same there as he is here, because he doesn't change and he has no body. And the deep mystical teachings from our Jewish brothers and sisters, which we really not supposed to get into because it is mind-boggling. It's it's not part of our reason for being, but it gets into some really deep understandings of where God says in Isaiah 45, Ani Hashem v'ain od. I am God and there is no other. And I've got a book over here that teaches on, what that means. There is no other. And it's very, 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 very intense. But that's just, we don't have to go that deep to have the relationship with God that we're supposed to have in our walk in who he created us. Our walk revolves around the ethics in our laws revolves around the ethics and morality of being human, just like what I said a week or so ago, that when we come to understand the prohibition of idolatry and what it means, even on a basic, simple understanding, then we begin to understand that the other 6 laws is a call for human responsibility. They're our responsibility to be humans in the way he created us on the earth, with one another, his creation, and with him. That's all the laws are. They're a call for human responsibility. And that word responsibility is a very hard word for this generation.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So another, I guess this is a statement here. I see a true or false. Okay. And I'm gonna critique this question here a little bit. This statement, this true or false position. There are times when I walk through this world, I can see the hand of the Creator moving everywhere, and then there's other times I walk and I see the Creator's hand nowhere. Does that mean that He is not there?
No, because in the places that you can't see it, He is purposely, there's a Hebrew word for that, and I wish Chris was here. He knows the word. I think I know what it is, but if Chris was here, he would definitely know the word. There's a Hebrew word that describes this essence, and it basically, in English, it means concealment. Where you can't see him, he's being concealed. He's concealing himself for a purpose. He's there, but you can't see it. You cannot. It's not that you can't see because he's not there. You can't understand the not there-ness of him, but he's there.
Does this parallel or go along with anything as we was talking last week about the Creator putting Moses in the cleft of the rock and hiding his presence, and then after the fact revealing what he has done?
See, a lot of things we can't see what the Creator is actually doing until we see it in the rearview mirror, like with Moses, on the cleft of the rock.
We call that aha moments.
Yeah, even I'm going to say something that's a very, very hard to understand, and it's one that I grapple with, because as you grow in your walk with these 7 laws with God, who he gave to Adam, to Noah, through Abraham, down to us through Moses, justice becomes a part of your desire more and more, than wanting to see correct justice in the world, because justice is one of our laws, the setting up of courts, proper courts, that these laws be aware. So everyday justice is a part of our life and that justice can be anything from if you do something, you see something that's not being done, right, and you do it right, or if you have an opportunity to do something right, just as simple as picking a piece of trash up off the road and putting it in the trash can, that's justice. It's that simple. But when we look at the injustices of the world, just like if we want to look at some of the most harsh of our lifetime, and especially lifetime, I know for me, for my grandparents and people that I actually know, if we look at the Holocaust, if we look at the wars that we have seen, I like war movies because I like history. And you look at, you especially like World War I, the trench wars, and how horrible those things were. And all the injustice that is done, that man has caused other man to go through such horrors. The hand of God and the will of God was all in that. And there is a justice there that we cannot comprehend and we will not know and understand until later. Because our mind, especially as we delve into our laws of murder and theft and forbidden sexual relations and all these other things and justice, we look at these harsh things of what mankind has done. It's hard for us in the flesh to understand what God is accomplishing through those horrors. And I hear the rabbis and the sages teach on these things, and I just shake my head and at it. And the more I study it, and I more understand it. But his justice and his presence is ever so much and everywhere in the world. Where it seems like it's not, that's probably where it's really the strongest, but we can't see it. And that's where, part of that faith comes in, knowing that God is ever existing and everything that is going on in this world is according to his will. And sometimes we can look at those horrors and go, how can that be the will of God? Some things is not meant for us to understand. What is that statement, Scotty? The things that are revealed are for us, but the things that are hidden are his.
Yeah.
So there are things that are hidden, even within the horrors of what man can do to man. There are things that are hidden there that will be revealed in the future when he's ready for us to see it and understand it.
Yeah. So Bob just writes a big word in quotation marks. Immuna.
You got it, brother. If you know what Immuna is, you got it.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the first things I learned in 2008. I started studying what Immuna was, and it's the reason why my blog, which I haven't, because Scotty keeps me busy, I haven't written anything, but I have a Immuna track, But Immuna is, once you understand what Immuna is, you almost can't explain it. But it explains a lot.
All right. Thomas has raised his hand ever so gently.
It's not a little heart this time.
No, it's a hand.
I was just going to say, you're talking about Immuna. You should tell him about that book, Terry.
What's the Garden of Immuna?
Yeah, because that did I actually cried when I read that book.
Hold on.
It's a good book. I think everybody should. The one for, not the one for Jewish people, though, the one for.
Yeah, I read the one in 2008 that Rabbi Rush wrote that was strictly just to the Jewish people. And then there are so many of us that read it and that were not Jewish and was getting going, what? He wrote one. I grabbed the wrong one. Sorry.
I think every Noahide should have that book. It's just, I don't know how to understand. I don't know how to explain it because I was messed up anyways. I wasn't really a Christian or nothing.
This one is the Garden of Immuna that he wrote for the Rabbi Rush wrote for the non-Jewish world. Now he's got some stuff in the back, speaking to us. I love Rabbi Rush. This whole section right here is
Chrissy's holding the book up. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's the Garden of Immuna, right? Yeah. Now this is the Universal Garden of Immuna. This is written it's that book written for the non-Jews. And but that is really, really good book. And you learn about what we would call true biblical faith, because Emunah is translated as faith, but it goes deeper than the English. But he's got a few things to the non-Jews here in the back as far as observances and stuff goes. Now, Rabbi Arush is great and amazing, but he is not a Noahide teacher, which is not a problem. He teaches his people. He's got a yeshiva in Jerusalem, which we actually support the married men that attend that yeshiva, because it's very difficult to go to school in Jerusalem and also support your family. And so, but his writings, Rabbi Arush's writings are amazing. There's a couple of his works that I would like to cover sometime in classes. But the Universal Garden of Emunah is about biblical faith for the non-Jew, basically, if I had to, give it a translation. And he tells some of his story a little bit in the front of it. But go ahead, Scotty.
No, that's good. That's good. Let's
see here. Hold on. Let me see if I can find something. Since we're right here. There's basically three levels, what's called three levels of Emunah, since Bob brought this up. So the Emunah can be divided into three main levels. The basic level is, this is the firm belief that everything comes from God by way of perfect divine providence, even the tiniest and the most seemingly insignificant event. This is what the Creator wants. Intermediate level Emunah is, in addition to a flawless basic Emunah, is the intermediate believes that everything that God does is for the very best. And that's what we were talking about. I believe that's the area that Bob was saying Emunah when I was talking about, though we can't understand the horrors of this world, there's a reason for it that we may not understand. The upper level Emunah is the addition to the solid basic intermediate level of Emunah. The upper level individual believes that God does everything for a specific purpose, and a person with upper level tries to understand the message within whatever God does. So even though we may never be told exactly what it is, once you reach this level, you do seek to understand what God is doing in the world. But I highly recommend The Universal Garden of Emunah by Rabbi Shalom Arush. This, like I said, this is written for the non-Jewish people. He's a great rabbi.
All right, Terry.
Was I clear? Was I as clear as mud tonight? Because that's a difficult. This week, I'm like, I've been chewing on it all week long.
Anytime
I was hoping I could explain it.
Yeah,
to be understood, because it's really a deep subject.
It's a subject that you really have to clarify. One has to clarify in their own mind. So we pray and hope that clarification comes from what you presented tonight.
And if you get some questions that comes to you through the week as you maybe rewatch this and feel free to get us the questions so we can continue. Just, we're just not going to blow and go on this, because this is a very, very intense, and most of us in the Western world have not read nor, been taught any of the true biblical understandings of the Torah. The teachers we persecuted for over 2,000 years, and, every time they stuck their head out to teach us, they were warned not to. Their books were burned. They were killed. Rabbi Akiva, one of the great rabbis that I hold high esteem, lived 2,000 years ago, was tied to a stake at Caesarea, and they put a rake in the fire, and when it was glowing red, they raked his flesh off of his bones because he taught the Torah. And the Jews today have a lot of what they have because of him. He's a very major inspiration for me, and I've studied his life and his and his works. And actually, I stood in Caesarea before I even knew anything really about Rabbi Akiva, and I probably stood very near the spot where the Romans killed him in the compound area, because we visited there. And all because he was teaching the Torah to his own people. His flesh was raked off his bones. So yeah, when in this generation, a generation that's never existed upon the earth like it is today, when we the non-Jews are knocking on their doors, not to expel them, not to kill them and to threaten them, but to say, hey, teach us about God, like it says in Zechariah chapter 8, verse 23. Teach us, because we know God is with you. That's Zechariah 8:23, and that's going on in a way today around this world. And they've been afraid to open their doors when people like us come knocking. But since 1980, they've cracked that door a little bit more and more and saying, come in.
Yep.
Go ahead, Scotty.
All right. No, that's so good, Terry. So good. So good. I do want to mention one thing. I'm sitting here wondering whether to mention it, but I'm going to mention one thing. I've been in contact with a few people over the past couple of weeks that are coming into this particular knowledge. You see, again, I'm choosing my words wisely, that are coming into this knowledge of the Creator. And they are not fully able to start with just the basic Chumash. I try to recommend the Art Scroll Chumash. The what I got.
Hold on. You still got me on speaker spell?
No, but I'm going to put you on speaker view right now. Hold on just a second.
Personally, this should be if you're really wanting to learn, for a good step, this needs to be a staple. I bought this in 2002, my first one. I didn't know anything yet. Is that all right? I'm speaking hillbillyan again. This was my start, and that's when I began my journey into the Hebrew scriptures. I got this one actually at Barnes & Noble at the time for about $56. It's called the Chumash, which means 5. It's the Torah with the commentary and the teachings from the Jewish scholars and sages. And it has what's called the Haftorah. It has the readings also from the prophets that goes with each section, which we can go into a lesson later. But that's when he says Chumash. This is what we generally were talking about. Is this? I mean, there's several that's called Chumash. I have a 5-volume sets right there that's called Chumash, but this is the one that we recommend to start with because it's good English. It's put out by Art Scroll, which makes publications for the English speaking Jews, and it's very good high quality material.
Well, I'm going to be working on for the next the remainder of this week and a little bit at the first next week of acquiring 3 for some people that I know that can't get them. So y'all be much in prayer for that. We're going to acquire those and get those mailed out to them. And so, okay, Terry, great class. Thank Chrissy texted and she had to go. So great.
And we really hope, for, divine, intervention and recovery for her grandson.
Yes. Most definitely. All right, everybody. We thank you so much. We thank those of you that listened through Power of Faith Radio tonight. We thank for those. At one time, we had 9 listening through YouTube, and I'm not sure what it is now, but we thank you so much for coming. Remember, you can share this video with all your social media platforms. And, of course, Outreach Noah is our sponsor name. And while you're there on YouTube, you can go ahead and subscribe to that channel and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified every time we go live, every time a new video goes up. And come on over to A Simple Walk Facebook page. It is a public page, and you can join that, and that way you'll be notified as well, the different links of listening and viewing and joining in. And you can send us an email. Just send that email to outreachnoah@gmail.com. And we greatly appreciate you being here with us every time we're here.
Hey, Scotty, got a question.
Yeah.
you know what's coming in. Do we want to continue this discussion next week, or do we want to move on to the contemplation of the prohibition of murder? It's a short chapter. And we can come back. We can come back to the book anytime. Just
let's go into the book next week. Okay. And I'm going to take a couple of things that was discussed here tonight, and maybe the week after that we'll pick up on some things.
Yeah, because we will, be thinking about it, because next week's, I think that chapter is fairly short.
Okay.
And we can probably cover that in one class and maybe even have a little discussion on something.
Okay. All right. Good deal. Everybody, thank you so much, and we will see you next week.